Well, hello and welcome back to the walk. So, tonight we're going to deal with a question I put on Facebook. And it's a question, it's been so interesting, some of the conversations that I've had with people, with women especially. Um, and if you didn't hear my video on game one and game two, I explained it just really quickly. Game one is those of you who have not lost your husband. And so, 3.5 months ago, I was in game one. But now that Paul has passed, I'm now in game two. And so there's a lot of things that coincide with that. And this is one of the things is what do we do as widows with the question, how are you? And what do you do as game one that you still have your spouse with you to answer that question or to ask that question? So it's really interesting what I did. I have four widows that I've been kind of keeping in contact with and asking them some of these questions. So before I start for myself, I'm going to read to you what they had to say. But when I read this, what I want you to realize is that everybody processes through this differently. Again, there are no rights or wrongs to this. So I think you'll see from some of these answers, especially when I come in and let you know how that question makes me feel. I think you're going to see a little bit of diverse and a little bit of different experiences with that. So listen to actually, this was on the Facebook post, and listen to what Sue Sarabo said. I asked her the question, and she said, yes, a tough question to answer honestly. Does the person asking really want to know how difficult a day can be? Or are they being nice? Or do they really care about you? Or just want to hear, I'm fine? I love what Sue says because I think often as those of us that are now widows, we feel that way. But I want to caveat some of this and go back to when I was still in game one. And in game one, when I still had my husband, I did the same thing. I didn't know how to ask a recent widow how they were. And so, interestingly, and I think this is really common. In fact, I'm going to read a comment from Ailey here in a little bit, who is still in game one, is that we get stuck. And sometimes, again, we process things through how we feel like we should handle this or how we would handle this. And so, some of that is, I think we got to be honest with this and be honest and just say, this is a difficult question to ask as game one. And this is a difficult question to answer as a widow. So follow with me some more of these things. And again, I love what Sue says is they really, do you really want to know how difficult my day is? Or are you just asking because that is what you're supposed to ask? And I think that right there is a little bit of the dividing factor in this. And I want to share just real quick, and I'll read some more of these. It was interesting. I was out with some friends yesterday and the precious friends, but they are in game one. And so trying to tell them how difficult these days are. And especially fresh out of the gate, and I'm still in this stage, is that every single day I plan. We talked about that, about the quiet, and actually I want to update you on how that's gone this week. So every day is calculated. And so when you ask that question, how are you? Maybe be ready for us to reply how difficult that particular day is, or fear maybe that you have in the future. So okay, moving right along. um Hold on just a second. I have to enlarge it because my eyes are weak. Okay, so this comes from a friend of mine that lost her husband almost 2 years ago. He died of cancer. And so when I asked her this question, um, her answer was very short. She said, well, I think that's a good one. That's a good question. So you're probably always going to answer, great, like, I'm fine. And so, we do this with people all the time. I look at that question, how are you, basically as a greeting, like, hi, how are you? But for us that are struggling with this, that question takes a whole new level because there are times I know for me, I want to tell you how I am. And I want to tell you how difficult this is. But sometimes we don't know how on our end to navigate that. So I love Lisa's nice short answer. Then another friend of mine that lost her husband just 5 months ago. So she's kind of probably pretty much in the stage that I am. So when I asked her, she said, I really dislike the question. I don't know how to answer it without lying. I love that answer if I say okay. I began saying I'm okay today. The days that I'm okay, I still don't want to say it. So I want to try to roll out a little bit, unpack a little bit of what she is saying that there are days that we don't want to say it. We don't want to say that we're okay. And part of that concern that I'm realizing for myself, potentially, if I tell you okay, if I answer it superficially like that and that I'm fine, you're going to think that I'm okay. And you're going to think that I'm fine. And then other people are going to see, oh, she's okay. She's fine. But again, what we want to tell you is how difficult these days are for us. All right, one more. This one's a little bit long, but I love what she has to say. So, this is from my friend Glinda, and she lost her husband a little over 3 years ago. So, her answer to this is when I was a new widow to grief, I cringed every time somebody would ask me, how are you doing? I could feel myself well up inside, trying to hold back the tears, wanting to change the subject as soon as I could. I understand people mean well, but they don't realize that I not only lost my husband, but I lost my future. Let's land on that one for just a second, and then I'll come back and read the rest of her statements. When I read that from her, I started to cry, and I cried hard because what she says is so accurate for us. Is that not only did we lose our husbands, we lost our future. In For me, because how Paul died in a blink of an eye. All of a sudden, literally from one day to the next, I lost all my future hopes, all my future dreams, all the plans that we were making. Just recently I was going through some stuff, and I found a folder that he started, a notebook that he started writing about our trip to South America. And so we were planning that. That's gone. That's not going to exist with my husband. So we did lose our future. Now, what we have to do in a healthy way, and again, I am not there yet, is figure out what our future is going to be from here on out. Some of us, and I've said this about myself, we've lost our purpose. We just don't know. I love the analogy that somebody said. It's like cutting off an appendage, and say you cut off your leg, you're going to limp until you figure out how to get around in the best way. That's exactly what we're going through. We're limping right now. We're limping for our future. But eventually, we're going to figure out what that's going to look like, and that it's going to look different for sure than what it was supposed to look like with our husband. Okay. Love that, Glenda. Thank you so much for that answer. Continue on. She says, I lost my hopes and dreams, my security, my normalcy. I lost who I was. And I know some of you are going to think, well, that's not right. Of course, you're not going to lose who you are. Absolutely. You lose who you are because you kind of just lost half of you. So part of this for us is a journey to find out who we really are and how to live that differently. Okay. I will never be the same person as I was before. Also, people don't realize what the widow is going through: lack of sleep, lack of eating, adding responsibilities. and a lot of the doubts and the fears. So the question, how are you doing, is gut wrenching to a new widow. She is experiencing all of these feelings. People asking this question, I believe, are concerned for sure. I get that. They just don't know what to say. I would rather them give me a hug. Here's some information for you that are still in game one. I'd rather them give me a hug and tell me that they are praying for me, or tell me that they will text me in a few days to see if I need anything, or hold my hand. A new widow needs to feel love and kindness and not put on the spot with a question, how are you doing? It should be obvious that she's probably not doing well. And she's got a little bit more. I'm going to read that in just a second. When she says this, sometimes I just want somebody to hold my hand. Um, I feel like that. And the other night, I'd gone out with a couple of girls on a Friday night, and we went to go hear a choir at a church. And I absolutely love choir music, and Paul didn't like it. So now I get to go. And so they were singing a song about, just hard times in life. And one of my sweet friends, all she did is just patted me on the knee. And when she did that, I knew she knew exactly what I was thinking of. That pat on my knee meant the world to me. Okay, so the last of what Glenda has to say. 3 years later, I don't mind that question. It's different now. I don't feel like people are asking me because I am a widow. They have moved past that. You see, the world believes I've learned how to heal from grief. They don't see I grieve in silence now. I want you to wrap your mind around that. Glenda lost her husband 3 years ago, and I've been around her enough. She still hurts. And so the grieving that she's had to do, she hasn't healed from that grieving. Now she has to do it in silence. So now let me flip a little bit of this, and let me answer that question for you in the stage that I am. Interestingly, I kind of like that question. But I think some of it I've learned just in life in general that I want to be straight and honest. And so sometimes, well, very rarely right now am I going to tell you, if you ask me how I'm doing, very rarely am I going to tell you fine or okay. What I might tell you now is, you know what? The morning's been okay. I'm a little scared for the evening, but the morning's been okay. So again, I don't typically mind it because I'm going to answer it pretty straight on. So now what I want to say to those that are in game one and know that we have lost our husbands, when you ask that question, you need to be ready for the answer that is there. Otherwise, and I love again what Glenda said, otherwise don't ask that question. Just give them a hug. Give them a pat on their shoulder. Tell them you're praying for them. Send them a text of, I prayed for you today. Send them a text with a Bible verse, something that's encouraging, because what that does, I know this is what it does for me, and I guarantee it does for these other women, is that what it does for us is it just lets us know we are not in this alone. And I have had people that have risen to the top, and they will send me a text. Doesn't have to be every day, but just occasionally. Hey, I prayed for you this morning. I just wanted you to know that. So those are the things of those that still have your husbands. There's some very specific tools for you. Now, I need to be honest for myself. When I was in game one and I still had my husband, I got stuck asking that question. I didn't know what to do. So there was a situation of a friend of mine actually lost her mother. I never followed up. I never asked her how she was doing. And the reason I didn't was because I was stuck. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if that was the appropriate question that I needed to ask her. And again, I love what these girls say. When you ask that question, you need to know we're really not doing all that well. We're surviving. I'm still crying every single day. So those are some I don't know, good tidbits. So I want to read here what Ailey Taylor, who again is still in game one, still has her husband, that she commented on the Facebook post. That's why I feel comfortable sharing this. Is yes, I think of you, and she's talking about me often, and I want to reach out. But this question seems so cliche that it makes me not reach out. I love her honesty. Absolutely love her honesty because that's truth. Is it just cliche? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. So, again, some of these are things, hopefully, that you'll be able to take to the bank with you. Those that are in game one is be sensitive when you ask that question, be sincere when you ask that question, pause. I love somebody said, I think Glenda said, maybe ask, how are you today? And there's just something about adding that word today that communicates to us, hey, they might really want to hear what I'm going through and what I have to say. If you don't want to ask that question because you don't know what to do, we get it. We understand. Just pat us on the shoulder, give us a hug. Again, send a message that you're praying for us. It's really interesting. And I'll finish with this story of my fairly recent experience. I had to go into the bank, and just FYI for widows, we've got to figure out all of our banking. We got to figure out where the money is coming from. We've got to figure out how do we take their names off the accounts, all of this stuff. So when we say there's a lot of paperwork, there is a lot of paperwork, and I am still not done. I have two big projects ahead of me that I need to address. Anyway, all that to say, a little more information is that I walked into the bank. I just received his life insurance. And so, which is what I'm going to have to live on for a while. And so, when I walked into the bank to make sure that it had gotten deposited and make sure I was, accurately handling this, the teller behind there, she knows me apparently, and she knew that my husband had died. And I'll never forget this. She looked at me kind of with tears in her eyes and said, "How are you?" When she said it with that voice inflection, I knew she needed to know or wanted to know how I really was. What's interesting is when she asked that question, I immediately teared up and I didn't know how to answer it. So those are some things maybe that might help you. I'm going to tell you another just quick story because so you know what we go through. Um, Last night, my middle son, who's studying to be a chef, put on this phenomenal dinner. It's really, really good. And it was in honor. This is part of his schooling. It was in honor of his dad. And so he had written out the menu. He sent it to me prior to that, and I had too. Sorry, I had read what was what was going to be presented to other people before I got there. So it's a good thing that I did. And it was the most precious tribute to his daddy. Every part of the meal had something to do about with his dad, and so some were funny stories. On my way there, and he doesn't know this, but on my way there, I was almost sick to my stomach because I didn't know how to handle it. I knew I was going to walk into a crowd. I knew that it was going to be a situation that was honoring my husband. I knew what my emotions were doing. I knew what my emotions wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want them to do. And so that caused a lot of anxiety in me and got yeah, didn't feel good. Didn't know how I was going to eat that food. Well, somebody that's very close to me had a great suggestion. She said, let's come up with a word. You say that word to yourself, and hopefully that'll help you through. And it did. So, all during the dinner, I wasn't fine, but I was okay. Had great conversations, but in the back of my heart, I knew I missed my husband. There was an empty seat next to me that was supposed to be my son's daddy, that was supposed to be my husband. So I was very aware that he wasn't there. So I walk outside. My father in law walked me out to the car because it was dark. I got into my car. Nobody saw this. I started bawling. I started just sobbing in my car. It's cried so hard that I knew I had to pause because it wouldn't have been safe for me to drive home. I couldn't see anything. But I tell you that story to let you know that we're not okay. We're just surviving this. And again, if you could give us a hug, a pat, an encouraging word, that will mean the world to us. Thanks for joining me tonight, and hopefully these things will help you.